Hey guys, today I'll be teaching you how to do checkmate with a king and a queen on a normal king. So if you remember to one of our earlier episodes, the way to checkmate a king with a rook was to put the situation like this. It looked like this. But for the queen this is a bit different because the queen has an extra diagonal when making his box. So let's just take a look at that. When the queen is making her box, for example here, it's also occupying these extra squares, which makes it sort of easy to stalemate. See, when we're in a position like this, the king and its white to move, the white king is in stalemate. The way to avoid this generally is just to give him a little more room and then just move it up one so he can only move here and checkmate. But let's look at it from the start. So if you remember in my rook video, I told you to make the box smaller. Right now the king's here and the queen is controlling these squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can immediately jump to 2 here because the king can't reach it here. Now take note that the black king is also taking care of this diagonal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, the white king might move here. Now we can't move here or make the box any smaller because then either the king will be free to move or it can take the queen. So we move the black king in closer. King might move here, then we can make the box smaller. Keep in mind, this is where it starts to get dangerous because he only has one square to escape. So remember, don't block this square when the queen is in like a position like this. So he might move here. We can't make the box smaller, so I'll move the king down. He might move here. We can make the box smaller. Might move here. Move the king down. We might move here. And now that we're trying to force him to the back row, we need to remember that we do not want to stalemate him. So take a position, try and push him down here or here. Then you're going to have to make the box smaller. And it's really important that for the queen, you don't make a smaller box than 2 by 2. In 1 by 2, you're stalemating the king with only leaving one room for him. So instead of for the rook where you do a 1 by 2, you just do a 2 by 2 because of this extra diagonal. So the king might move down here. And remember, we can't move here because otherwise the white king would be in checkmate. So what we do here is we give the white king some extra room, and he might move here. Then we just move to the side, and he has to move back here, and we move him here. And if he moves here, just take opposition. Then I have to move here. If he moves here, then you don't have to take opposition. Then you have to move back and let him go back again. But eventually you'll manage to get him in a position where you're something like this, and then he has to move here, and then you'll checkmate him. So let's try and look at a different example. We can see here that it's white with the queen this time, and let's say it's white to move. So we try to make the box smaller, 2 by 4. And the king might move here. We can make it even smaller. The king might move here. The white king needs to move up because we can't make the box any smaller. The black king could move here, here. The black king could move here. Let's move in opposition. The black king could move here. Now this is a really good position. The key thing is to make sure that you take advantage of the queen's diagonals. Right now, if the white king moves here, the black king has to move here, which makes it really easy checkmate. Actually, if you find yourself that this is actually more easy, the easier rule to do checkmate with 2 kings and a queen is to do the 2 by 3 square rule. It's a cool trick, and it's a bit more advanced because you have to like stop earlier, you need to maneuver your king more, but to be honest, it's actually what I use, and it's actually pretty good. So check, moves here, make the box smaller, moves here, sorry, make the box, move the king up here, make the box smaller, 2 by 3, move here, the king might move here, the king might move here. Make sure not to cut off the queen's ray. The king might move here, the king might move here. Then you can take opposition. The king has to move here, and you'd have checkmate. So the key for the queen is, if you're struggling and you don't really know what's going on, I'd say use the 2 by 2 rule. But if you have a clear idea of, yeah, I'm playing the queen, king endgame, I want to checkmate him using the 2-3 rule, then I'd use the 2-3 rule for the queen. So keep in mind, for rook, it's 2-1 rule, and for queen, it's 2-3 rule. Remember, this is really important. Never, ever, ever put a situation like this, putting the king in stalemate, and you're tying the game, while you could have an easy win with the king and the queen. Now, one last problem. A lot of the times, people play endgames like this where they have a rook and a queen. You see, this looks quite similar to the rook and the rook. That's because it is. Only problem is that some people again misjudge it, stalemating the opponent. So what you can do is just check and then move up, check, and then he'll move up and then check again, checkmating him. Now, sometimes this can prove tricky because you need to be careful that you don't stalemate him. Like when you move in, like you keep chasing after him, and then you just gotta be absolutely careful. Remember, this is a really useful tool, the queen, because you can just diagonal up instead of having to move down and things like that, and then check. So really, checkmate with the queen and the rook is an easy thing to do if you've already learned the step method with the 2 rooks. And that's it. So remember, it's a 2-3 trick for the queen, and it's a 1-2 trick for the rook. And that's all I've got for today.